Welcome to this week's edition of the Powercat Pregame Podcast, sponsored by Robbins Motor Company. I am GoPowercat publisher Tim Fitzgerald, and we're back for another edition. Kansas State at 4-2 overall and 2-1 in the Big 12 plays host to TCU. The Frogs are 1 week further into their season at 4-3 and 2-2 overall in the conference. They will meet Saturday night at Bill Snyder Family Stadium. That's right, K-State's playing a home game for the first time in almost a month. The game is scheduled for a 6 p.m. kick and will be shown on ESPN2. And as we go through this podcast this week, if you're listening on a podcast network, you're really not going to notice much different about what we're doing. But this week on the video side, on our YouTube channel at GoPowercat, you should be subscribing to that. We're going to chop these up into 3 separate videos. Hopefully we can get YouTube to play them one after another. But we feel like putting this up in more consumable bites instead of 1 hour-long video will allow some of you to feel free to come and go with the different segments. And as always, we start with Brien Hanley, go to Ryan Wallace, and then Ryan Gilbert as we progress through this preparation session for Kansas State and TCU. And as I mentioned, we are sponsored by Robbins Motor Company. At Robbins Motor Company, they strive to earn lifetime business and build relationships selling quality cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs and offering top-notch parts and service. Robbins Motor Company, title sponsor of the Powercat Pregame Podcast. And something we started doing last week and we will continue is you'll hear from Coach Kleiman and some players, maybe one player, as we progress through this. What's interesting is Coach Kleiman didn't let Will Howard or Avery Johnson come to Tuesday's K-State media opportunity. He sent in some players, but not the quarterbacks. And of course, we want to hear what he has to say about the quarterbacks. On the other side of this quote, we've got Brien Hanley, but let's hear Chris Kleiman talk about how he hopes to use his 2 quarterbacks, Will Howard and Avery Johnson, in this game against the Frogs. Here's Chris Kleiman.
I don't know how it's going to work out on Saturday, guys. It's Tuesday right now. And what we learned from this past Saturday is that we've seen Will play at a really high level and be successful. And then we saw Avery play at a high level and be successful. And so we feel comfortable with both guys leading this football team. I couldn't tell you. I don't have the answer. CK wouldn't have the answer if you thought it would be a 60-40, 50-50, 90-10 split. We have no idea. We're going to go through the game plan and see who, where, and what gives us the best opportunity.
And now we have Brien Hanley, our football analyst, the former offensive lineman on those 97-98 K-State teams. In all red. You couldn't have worn that last week. You probably can't wear that next week.
No,
but in a purple on purple, you can get away with it.
I can
Looking
make it
good,
work.
my friend.
Thank you. I
Good.
appreciate it.
Okay, both of these teams had serious bounce backs last week. TCU just dismembered BYU. I mean, they did it like nobody else has done it this season, and it was impressive.
Yeah.
K-State found new life with Avery Johnson. Of course, TCU also found life with the freshman quarterback. But all of a sudden, the whole storylines around this game, because of what happened last week, are totally different than a couple weeks ago.
Yep. I think that the way that TCU won, because I think a lot of people wrote TCU off for dead. They absolutely wrote them off for dead, and I'm one of those people. I just thought this season is going in the tank. The kids have quit. But they haven't. And BYU, I know a lot of us at the beginning of the year didn't know how good they were, but they were a little better than I think a lot of us anticipated. And TCU just took them behind the woodshed. So I think TCU may have found something. Now it's one game, but they may have found something. And as far as K-State, I think it just got back to some pride. I think it got back to we're better than this. We are better than what we put out there on tape. This is ridiculous. We got caught with our pants down, and guys just said, you know what? Enough is enough. And I love that kind of attitude. When you get caught, just own it and come out fighting.
I got to tell you, I think this game is going to be a war. I mean, there's going to be some big plays in it. There's going to be a lot of physical football. there's going to be some guys taken off the field for injury at a higher rate. I just feel like these two teams think this game designs the rest of their season as we're at the midway point of the year.
Yeah. I mean, and physical football, you know me, Fitz. I love physical football. So I think it's going to be a battle. I think it's going to be a battle that two teams getting after it, trying to make their way into this season or down the season. I guess you can't really say it's down the stretch yet, especially K-State. We can't say it's down the stretch with so many games left, but I just think it's going to be a physical football game. It's going to be a game where guys they're trying to make their mark, because if TCU wins, they can say, hey, we beat K-State. Our season is officially back on the rails.
Yep.
And K-State, on the other hand, they can say, look, the train is still going down the tracks. The train is still chucking. We still got everything that we want to accomplish is still in front of us.
It is interesting. TCU's one game further down their road than K-State. TCU is 4-3 overall, 2-2 in the Big 12. K-State, of course, is 4-2, 2-1. So yeah, if you're TCU, you're either staring at getting yourself one game away from bowl eligibility or being 500. And that just feels like it's worlds apart. So I think we're going to see some real urgency from the Frogs to make a statement. And how do they not have, even if the roster is a lot different, there's still a lot of guys left over from last December that are on this roster. How do they not have a little vengeance on their minds after that Big 12 championship?
Oh, they will. They absolutely will. They understood even though they were able to still make it to the national championship game. But who wants to lose the Big 12 title? Nobody wants to do that, especially the way that they lost it.
Yep.
You know, nobody wants to lose it the way that they lost it. So yeah, those guys are going to be out for revenge. But that's fine. That's fine, because we can say the same thing. Hey, we lost at TCU. And I think if at halftime, I think that's a game that K-State thinks we're in control and we got this game. Now they let it get away. But I think K-State thought that they were better than TCU all along last year. They ended up winning the football game at the Big 12 championship game. So, but yeah, TCU is going to come in with a chip on their shoulder, but I think K-State will too.
Well, like you said, you're a guy that's all about physical football. You're an offensive lineman. I thought Kansas State's offensive line in Lubbock was outstanding.
Man. Like I mentioned on the Insiders, I've been hard on the offensive line all year long, and deservedly so. They haven't played great. They had a couple games here or there, or a game here or there, but they hadn't played great, and they played phenomenal, just knocking guys around. And it's going good when you see guys 5, 6, 7 yards still engaged, still driving guys all the way through the whistle, not to the whistle, through the whistle, finishing blocks, making people pay. I loved it. And they have to come out with the same attitude this week and do the same thing.
How much can a quarterback redefine everyone else on the field? Because I feel like that level of physicality didn't really kick in until Avery did a little damage. And then they're like, okay, let's go. Let's do this. And they started to find a rhythm. I just feel like Avery Johnson lit a fire under the line and other position groups on this team.
Well, I mean, he was hitting things going downhill.
Right.
And even though we have a lot of side to side, a lot of read option stuff, when the read option is still quarterback power hitting downhill, we're pulling a guy and he's hitting the hole, that will fire up an offensive lineman better than anything. Getting 6 yards and we're running downhill between the tackles. I mean, there's nothing better than that. And there wasn't anything Tech could do to stop it. That is what really made the difference. Because when us O linemen, it's like throwing us raw meat. And we see it out there and we're like, well, wait a minute. These guys can't stop it. Let's just keep going and going and going. And they did. To their credit, to Colin Klein's credit, they just kept pounding them, man. Just kept pounding them.
Man, it was fun to watch. And we spoke with Hayden Gillum this week, and he was pretty fired up about what the offensive line did. I think it was their best game of the season. And if they can bottle that up and start doing that, K-State's going to win a lot of football games.
Absolutely.
Defensively, Kansas State is getting thinned out. One of the main things Chris Klieman has attempted to do since arriving is build the depth. He's had some success in that. And now it's really being tested. His corners are beaten up. He's down to his backup middle linebacker, who's a true freshman who now is injured too, and is going to have to play through that if possible. If not, they're going to be I'm really worried about the middle of that defense if Austin Romaine can't go, and he's a true freshman. If you got a true freshman at number 2, that tells you he's good, but also there's nobody else behind him that is quite ready to go. This defense just has to find something that works here against an offense that found a lot of success with throwing the ball downfield last week, which is a little scary for K-State.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do. Football is, like I said, it's a game of attrition. It always has been. It always will be. So you got to have depth. The thing that I liked last week is that when they brought pressure, they brought pressure. They say, we're going to make you get the ball out of your hand. You better make the right read, because if you don't make the right read, it's either going to be an incompletion or we're going to take the football away from you, which I get some of the throws were right to you, but that's what pressure does. That's what pressure is designed to do. So I would love for us to be able to get more pressure without having to blitz so many guys. That will absolutely help the back end. And I think that's part of the problem, is that we're having to force guys, up at the line and bring so much pressure, 5, 6, even 7 guys sometimes. And it causes trouble on the back end. It just does a lot more pressure. So if we can get more pressure up front without having to blitz, that will change things. It just will change so many things on the back end, because there's so much more for the quarterback to have to read that way.
Yeah, you're exactly right. It's going to be a balancing game for Joe Klanderman. And that defense, offensively, it's going to be a balancing game for Colin Klein to figure out what quarterback needs to be on the field. We thought on this podcast last week that the quarterback run game would be a big part of it. Ryan Wallace has shared on social media, and I'm sure he'll talk about it in the next segment, about how good this TCU defense is against the quarterback run. This game might be better designed for Will Howard rather than Avery Johnson, but they're both going to play. It's an interesting balance Colin Klein's being asked to perform every week now with this 2 quarterback issue, but that's exactly what Chris Kleiman wants from him right now. He wants to play them both and put them both in a position to succeed. Is this an exception to 2 quarterbacks can play?
It can be. It can be. Here's the thing. We haven't seen Avery consistently throw the ball down the field. Now, clearly, he's a 4-star recruit. Everybody wanted him, it seemed like. So obviously he's shown that he can throw the football. So it's not a matter of him throwing the football, but this is not high school football. So you have to be able to throw the ball down the middle of the field, on the edges, outside the numbers, 10, 12, 15 yards down the field. Not saying that he can't. We just haven't seen it. That's all. So he has to be able to do that to be in this game. We have seen Will Howard do that. So if they're going to take away quarterback run game, which I'm still not 100% positive, I know TCU is good against it. I still am going to bet on our offensive line to be able to do their job. We might not see almost 300 yards rushing, and quarterbacks just running downhill, not getting touched for 8, 9 yards. But I still think it's got to be part of the game plan 100%. But we're going to have to throw the football. We're just going to have to throw the football, if for nothing else, to back those guys up. And say, you're not going to just stand here on the line and stuff this run game, because otherwise we're going to throw it over your head.
Well, they used to say about the guy you played with, Michael Bishop, that he was a running back at quarterback. And that wasn't meant as an insult to his ability to be a quarterback, but he was as dangerous as any running back in the college game. But, he could throw it downfield. I've seen a lot of comparisons with Avery, and I know physically they're different players, but I feel like he's a running back playing quarterback, and that might be the difference maker. He's so fast. He's so quick with his reads and quick with his decision-making. I know what the stats are, but I want to see them stop him, not just a vague quarterback run game, him with that kind of quickness. Do you buy into that comparison at all with Michael? I know Michael's elite and all that, but they both are just so dangerous in that run game that it opens up the passing game. And Avery can get the ball downfield. He just hasn't had to do it.
Right. First of all, I'm not going to make that compare because it's not fair to Avery yet.
No,
that's not fair to him.
No, it's not.
Second of all, Mike was much bigger than Avery. He's a
Much.
bigger guy. You know, he is a true – Michael Bishop was a tailback, a big tailback playing quarterback, okay, that had an absolute cannon. So that was different. A comparison that people may want to think – and again, we're not comparing him saying that he's him.
It's finished, yeah.
But it might be Lamar Jackson, because Lamar Jackson has the same type of frame, the same type of build that Avery does, can throw the ball down the field. But I would be willing to say, people say Lamar Jackson is a running back playing quarterback. That would be more of a comparison, even if I was going to make one. But yeah, and the emphasis on Lamar Jackson was, you better stop him. I don't care what other running game or what else is going on. You better stop him, because if you don't stop him, he's going to end up with 400 yards total offense against you, and you're going to get beat. So I think defenses have to come in wanting to stop Avery, because if they don't, it's like you said, he is just that fast. And Mike's going to hate this because he's going to hear it, but Mike wasn't the fastest guy out there.
No, he wasn't. He wasn't. I swear some people are like, yeah, I could catch him, but I don't want to hurt myself.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. That's more like it.
Yeah, he's going to turn his shoulder pads, those massive pads he played in, and
yeah. And now he would run you over, though. Mike wouldn't hesitate to run you over. He loved contact. That's why we loved him so much, because he absolutely loved contact.
Brien, I almost feel like this game, there's going to be some fans complaining because they're throwing the ball with Avery and running the ball with Will, because I feel like TCU is going to change how they defend, and we might see some oddities in this game. But I also think this game is perfectly designed for anything you're saving with both quarterbacks on the field. You might want to start considering using it in this game, because TCU is extremely well coached. They'll get after you on defense. They did it last week with BYU and just knocked the heck out of Slovis, the quarterback. I feel like Chris Kleiman isn't a trickeration kind of coach, but I feel like this is a week that we could see it.
Well, the thing about it is that we're into the season right now. You know, this is not the first couple games of the year. We're into the season. So anything in the playbook is fair game. Matter of fact, everything is absolutely fair game. This is where coordinators make their money, is because coordinators, while you're in season, you have to start devising ways to be able to stop something if you're a defensive coordinator, or create opportunities to get your guys the ball in space and get yards as an offensive coordinator. So this is how they make their money, is during the season, not, the first couple games of the year. No. When everybody knows what you're doing, you still have to be able to have a functioning offense or defense. That's why you are in that position. So I feel like the guys understand that, and they'll empty the tank if they need to empty the tank. I think we have that type of coaching staff that's like, hey, man, we're trying to win. Yep. And if you're playing two quarterbacks, then I think you're trying to win. If you're doing everything that you can and you're emptying that tank with two quarterbacks, I got to feel like every play in the playbook, offense or defensive wise, is out there.
Does K-State get this done? They have Houston coming in next week. Then they go to Austin to play Texas. This game just feels enormous. Every game does, but as I get closer to this game, I'm beginning to feel like this is going to be a really hotly contested game. Does K-State get it done?
I think K-State gets it done. Look, and we can all be K-State homers and say they're going to win every single game.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is that K-State, I believe K-State's a better football team. I keep going back to that. I know we've had some slip-ups, and I know Missouri's a good team. K-State was better than Missouri. K-State just flat out, they were better than Missouri and gave that game away. And Missouri is a good football team, but K-State gave that one away. And I think every K-State fan on earth knows that they gave the Oklahoma State game away. Just complete didn't show up. I think the guys are smart enough and understand now we got to show up for every single game. This is a big one. They're going to come in here with a bad attitude based off of last year, coming with their chest bowed out because of what happened last week, them blowing out BYU, thinking, you know what? We can go to K-State and we can go carve out a win however we got to carve it out. I think K-State's got to match that intensity. I think they will match that intensity, and it'll be early. It'll be early because I think TCU is going to try to challenge us early, but we just have to match it, which I think we will, and I think we get the win.
Very good. That's my offensive lineman. He'll protect me anywhere. Brien Hanley, make sure you check out his daily show, Big B Daily. Check out his channel. Go subscribe to that channel. drop by his house and give him candy. Anything you can do to support that cat would make me happy. Brien, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, that's it for the first segment of the Powercat Pregame Podcast. On the other side, we have Ryan Wallace. Stick around. Wally knows his stuff.